Okay, welcome to a class today on Descartes. And Descartes wrote a book, a kind of essay really, called Meditations, and there are 6 meditations in the essay. And it sounds like he's having a good hard long think one night, and then the next night, and then the next night, because he often refers to it as yesterday when he goes back to the previous meditation. And if I were going to recommend one bit of philosophy to everybody, I would probably recommend this book, just because, I mean, in particular, the first 2 meditations. And that's because there's a very strong argument, or very interesting argument, and it's certainly very famous because it's got the old cogito ergo sum. Yeah, I think, therefore I am. I think this is certainly something that Descartes is very famous for. And it's a really powerful essay, in particular, in my opinion, the first 2 meditations. And what he wants to know is, he wants to know, what can we be certain of? Yeah, what can we actually know? What are the limits of knowledge? They really are the questions that are driving this search for answers. Yeah, he wants to know the answers to these questions. They're obviously epistemological questions. Yeah, this is about the theory of knowledge. What can we know? What is it possible to know? What are the limits of knowledge? And so he asks himself, firstly, what can be doubted? Yeah, and he asks himself this because he wants to see if there's anything out there that's absolutely undoubtable. Yeah, is there something that nobody would ever doubt and you just can't doubt, that's absolutely 100% must be true? Yeah, and so he comes to the conclusion right at the beginning that all that I have learned has been via the senses. Yeah, but via his ears, his eyes, his nose, his mouth. Yeah. And this idea is very similar to what we saw in Hobbes. Yeah, and by the way, Descartes got an answer from Hobbes. He sent his meditations out to all of the clever people around at the time, and many famous people, perhaps who you know as well, who you have come across. And this was because he wanted all of the clever people around him to tell him what was wrong with his logic. You know, he was another very intellectually honest person, and he wanted to know, are there any weaknesses in my argument? Okay, and so he claims, yeah, that all that he has learned has been via his senses. However, he's well aware that sometimes our senses deceive us, okay? And so we can doubt our senses. And he even makes this point, which comes up in a few different texts. I think it came up in Plato. How can we know that we aren't dreaming? Yeah? How can we know that we aren't dreaming? Now, he points out, and this is very important because it gives you an idea straight away at the beginning, that he considers certain knowledge, mathematical knowledge, to be more certain than just knowledge of what's around you. Okay? And so he says, whether we are awake or asleep, 2 plus 3 is always 5. The internal angles of a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. A square always has 4 sides. Yet he claims that even when you're asleep, you'll never see a square with 5 sides. Now, you might disagree with him there. You might say that it is possible to dream of absurd, self-contradictory things. But certainly Descartes thinks it's not possible. And I can see where he's coming from here. It would be pretty hard to dream of a square with 5 sides, but I suppose you might possibly be convinced that that is possible in a dream. Yeah, but he seems to think that this is not possible in a dream, so mathematical knowledge can't be doubted. Or can it? Yeah, because in this first meditation he actually points out that, well, yes, actually it can. Because suppose God has deceived us, yeah? But then he explains that God is good, isn't he? And so God wouldn't deceive anybody. And so let's forget about God, and let's suppose an all-powerful demon has deceived us, so that everything we think we know around us, all the things around us, maybe they are the invention of this evil demon, and he has just put this experience of reality in front of us, and actually none of it's real. This shed isn't real, this board isn't real, this pen isn't real, Descartes isn't real, none of this philosophy stuff is real, yeah? that's what he wants you to imagine. He wants you to imagine that maybe none of this is real. In other words, you can doubt everything around you. Okay, you can doubt that everything around you exists, and so that kind of knowledge is not very certain and not very direct, and that's knowledge of the external world. Yeah, knowledge of the external world is doubtful. It can be doubted, certainly, and even mathematical knowledge, such as geometrical knowledge. Yeah, geometry, it's come up a lot in this course and we're going to talk about it again. Even geometry can be doubted because maybe this all-powerful demon has tricked us into thinking that the internal angles of a triangle add up to 180 when actually they add up to 182, yeah, or something like that. Descartes argues that that's possible, you know, that it could just be we are being tricked. And I suppose, yeah, even with mathematical knowledge, it's possible that it only appears to us that there's no contradiction there, but maybe there is a contradiction in our idea of a triangle, and the all-powerful demon has just managed to trick us, yeah? So, we can already see what he's doing. He's trying to show it. He's trying to take away everything that can be doubted, so that we're left with the one thing, or perhaps there are a few things, which can't be doubted. And this comes out in the second meditation. And he makes this claim that the mind is known more easily than the body. Our experience of the mind is more direct, more real, more certain, perhaps, you know, more true than how we access the body and how we access physical objects around us. And so this is the argument. The senses can be doubted, the body can be doubted, even mathematics can be doubted, but the act of thinking can't be doubted. Yeah, and this is what cogito ergo sum means. Yeah, I think therefore I am. It means that you can never doubt that you are thinking, because even when you doubt the world around you, that doubting is a type of thought, it's a type of thinking. And so the act of thinking can't be doubted. That's the one thing that is self-evident. I'm going to use that word. It's the one thing that is self-evident. You're thinking, you're doubting. Yeah, it's the one thing which you can't doubt. You can doubt the physical world, you can doubt the external world, you can doubt mathematical truths, but the one thing you can't doubt is that you are thinking, because to doubt is to think. Yeah, to exist is to think, and to think is to exist. Or we could say, to doubt is to think, and to think is to doubt, because it's a pretty similar thing that he's saying here.